Alright, this is Joe and Colo with OKRAW.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you, coming out here from my beautiful backyard garden where I got lots of cruciferous and other kind of leafy greens growing this time of year. In any case, in this episode, actually I want to share with you guys a published study, which actually is a case review or case study, which is the lowest form of evidence out there on how a raw, whole, plant-based nutrition protocol rapidly reverses symptoms in women with systemic lupus and Sjogren's autoimmune conditions. And then the other thing I want to do in this episode, besides present the study and more importantly what the people ate in the study, I want to kind of highlight some things that I feel are important that many of you guys may not think important. And then of course what I'm going to do at the end is also add in my 2 cents. Now I am not a medical doctor, although I have eaten a raw vegan diet now for the last 29 years. And I got into this in 1995 because I personally had an autoimmune situation that I needed to correct. And that's why I live to this date, on a raw-based diet, although I include small amounts of heat-processed foods these days. So yes, I'm going to share my commentary in this episode. So with that, let's get to it. All right, so you guys can see this was published in Frontiers in Nutrition. Just published February 27, 2024. Looks like it was received originally in April 2023, and probably the Frontiers in Nutrition, made them kind of modify and do a bunch of stuff in order to get this case study published. Now, case studies are good because they can kind of like lead people in the right direction, at least get the information out there for people to try things, especially if they're at a low cost, to the person. All right, so I'm glad that Dr. Brooke Goldner is publishing this. You can, of course, check her out on her website at goodbyelupus.com. I don't think I met Dr. Goldner. I've seen her on different shows or whatever before, interviews. But yeah, she's reversing people with certain autoimmune conditions. I think it's great. So let's go ahead and read into some of the study, some of the highlights. All right, so as you guys can see in this case study, they reversed the symptoms in 3 women with systemic lupus, erythematosus, and Sjogren syndrome. And let's find out specifically what they did. So number one, I want to highlight that these are chronic immune diseases. I personally had an autoimmune disease, and that's why I got onto a raw vegan diet myself. That being said, I will say that not all raw vegan diets are not all the same. You can have a raw vegan diet that's high in fruit, high in vegetables, which is what I advocate. You could actually do other sprouted grains and beans in some extent as well and incorporate that as well. But I don't think most people are eating the style raw vegan diet that these people use to heal. So let's find out what that is. So it says, the highlighted text, the protocol emphasizes leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables, omega-3, polyunsaturated fatty acids, and water, and includes predominantly raw foods. The 3 patients reported dramatic improvements in physical symptoms, with nearly all symptoms of SLE and SS resolving after only 4 weeks or less of adhering to the protocol. All 3 patients have remained symptom-free, 2 of whom have remained symptom-free for 6+ years with no recent medication use. Patients and practitioners should be made aware of the promising possibility of food as medicine in the treatment of SLE and SS. Future research should explore whether dietary changes may be a potential treatment strategy for individuals suffering from severe symptoms and poor quality of life due to SLE and SS. So I think this is really great that she is publishing on this. And, once again, they resolved the issues after 4 weeks, which is quite impressive. And I'm not going to say that's not impressive, because that's quite impressive. And actually they have, and more importantly, they've remained symptom-free. 2 of them have for 6+ years. Which is also very impressive. So this is not just a testimonial. I mean, this is a published testimonial with science and tracking backed up. That being said, the patients never came into a study to do this. So, we'll cover that in a little bit. But let's go down further. They describe what the autoimmune disorder is like. But I want to go down specifically because I'm more about the diet and what they specifically ate to get the results. Because that's, I look for clues. So it says, whole food, plant-based WFPB diet eliminates processed foods, added oils, sugars, and animal products, and the recovery protocol shares similarities with the WFPB diet. All right, so that's what they did. They did the Rapid Recovery Program, RRP, and they work with Dr. Brooke Goldner. They had to basically have fairly good adherence to the recovery protocol for it to work, and it was a 4-week all-in-one one-on-one program or 6-week group program that Brooke does offer on her website. All right, then continuing on. However, it is further refined to focus on predominantly raw foods, and that's what, a whole food plant-based diet doesn't say how much raw foods you need to eat, and high intakes of leafy greens and cruciferous vegetables, omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids, whole ground flax or chia seeds, cold pressed flax oil, and water. So that's literally all they ate, with few exceptions on this recovery program, which is quite impressive. On the recovery protocol, while raw vegetable intake is allowed ab libitum, that means like as much as you want, daily intakes are set as follows: 16 ounces of leafy greens, i.e. spinach, kale, and cruciferous vegetables, a half cup flax or chia seeds, and 3 tablespoons cold pressed flaxseed oil, and 96 to 128 ounces of water. Fruit is recommended at no greater than 25% of total dietary intake to ensure the patients are able to consume the recommended amount of vegetables before reaching satiety. Vitamin B12 and D supplementation is recommended. So I want to highlight that no greater than 25% of dietary intake of fruit. One of the issues with eating fruit is it has a lot more calories than vegetables, especially leafy green vegetables. And, if you fill up on fruit, you're not going to have room for your greens. Of course, fruit also tastes a lot better than greens to most people. I might beg to differ depending on the quality of the fruit and actually the quality of the greens, especially when I'm growing them myself. That being said, I think that people on a raw vegan diet should focus on more vegetables, especially the leafy greens and especially the cruciferous vegetables like Brooke Goldner discusses. It's quite sad that some camps of raw foods basically say cruciferous vegetables are toxic and you shouldn't eat them, right? So I'm going with the science on this one. So anyways, continuing on, if remission of symptoms is achieved, patients are allowed to step down to a maintenance phase, which allows for the incorporation of some cooked whole plant foods as well as more fruits and the addition of nuts and seeds. Patients are advised to try one new change at a time, waiting 3 to 5 days in between to ensure there is no reemergence of symptoms. If symptoms emerge, patient returns to the recovery protocol. The maintenance phase remains 100% plant foods with 75% of intake recommended to be raw, continuing with daily smoothies or salads and incorporating 64 ounces of water or more, unless otherwise noted by patient's physician. And of course, in the second phase, fruit is not restricted, and other whole plant foods such as legume and whole grains may be incorporated during maintenance. All right, and then even after 6 months, they would say you could add in processed vegan foods. I wouldn't actually go to that, because what's the use of adding things that really aren't going to hurt your health unless it's just to fit in socially or for some other reason, although it's only 1 to 2 times per week, which is termed as recreational eating. Otherwise, they want you to keep up the maintenance protocol. Now, that's a very important point, guys. You do this healing protocol for 4 to 6 weeks, whether it's a one-on-one or whether it's a group. You get the results, and then after you do the main healing, then you go to the maintenance phase, and that's where I see people lose it. People go on the recovery phase, whether you go on a raw vegan diet or otherwise, you get amazing results because, most importantly, you're leaving out the things that probably caused the problem in the first place. And the other thing is, as we'll discuss, you crank up the nutrition in the foods you're eating and also the foods that you're feeding your microbiome, my opinion. That being said, once you get the results, you think, oh, I'm healed now. I could just go back to eating McDonald's and French fries and other things, that I ate before. And, if you go back to Chinese food or whatever else after you heal, right? Brooke Goldner has evidence that, with her patients, that the symptoms will return and it'll come back. It's because you got to get rid of the stuff that's causing the issue. So I don't do processed vegan foods. However, I will heat process my foods, and I'm not really going to talk about that at the end, but I want to just discuss real quick that not all cooked foods are created equal. We can't all lump all cooked foods as toxic. There are better or worse ways to heat process foods. Links down below to my videos where I discuss this. All right, then of course they go over the case descriptions, and you could read this person was pregnant and blah blah blah. But I really want to highlight this point and leave it up on the screen for a little bit so you guys could copy it down so you guys know exactly what was being eaten. This is the Table 1 summary of dietary recommendations during rapid recovery and maintenance plan. So you can see on the rapid recovery, which is 4 to 6 weeks, you eat raw vegetables unlimited, focus on high intake of leafy greens and cruciferous vegetables, minimum of 1 pound a day or 16 ounces. And they recommend a 64-ounce green smoothie a day as a easy way to consume the recommended vegetables, because it's hard to just eat that much salad. And they're probably not letting you have salad dressing. Maybe you could put some fruit over it. And then it says 25% or less of total dietary intake of fruits. And then you could do whole ground flax and chia seeds, minimum half cup recommended per day initially, and increases tolerated, or 3 tablespoons of cold pressed flax oil. And if you guys want to get the best flax oil, the best flax seed oil is not made in a factory and then sold in a bottle at your health food store. Link down below where I demonstrate equipment, and I've made my own high quality flax oil that tastes nothing like the stuff you bought at the store, not going rancid, not going bad. It just simply tastes amazing. Anyways, you got to drink some water there, and they recommend 96 to 128 ounces a day, or based on body weight. Vitamin B12 and D supplementation, 1 teaspoon of salt a day. And then I guess on one person ate Ezekiel bread, not typically allowed or not typically included, but allowed for case 1 due to increased hunger due to pregnancy. So that's what they ate on the program. Now, to me, this is a fairly restrictive diet, but most people should be able to digest vegetables, fruits, and, flax and chia, or actually get used to it. And, here's the thing. One of the reasons why it works is not because all the nutrition in here, but also what you're leaving out. So you're leaving out all animal products, added oils, processed foods, added sugars, cooked foods, grains, and legumes. So that's what they do for 4 to 6 weeks, and they get results. Then for the maintenance phase, after they've healed, then they could go on the maintenance phase, which is vegetables, focus on higher intake of cruciferous vegetables, recommended 75% raw. Fruits, no recommended restriction. Seeds and nuts, whole ground flax and chia, minimum 1/4 cup a day still. Water recommended 64 ounces or more. Intact whole grains, legumes, B12 and D supplementation, and 1 teaspoon of salt a day. And of course, on this side, you're also eliminating all animal products, all added oils, except for maybe the flaxseed oil, and then processed foods, added sugars, alcohol, except noted below. And then after 6 months remission, processed vegan foods, foods with sugar, oil, or alcohol allowed 1 to 2 times a week, term recreational eating, while otherwise continuing the step down or maintenance protocol. This is only allowed when individuals remain asymptomatic, and should symptoms reoccur, then you need to jump back in the rapid recovery phase because you screwed up. All right. So that's what they did. And, you could see they got blood testing of the different, markers to see what's going on. And I want to read this real quick, how she consumed the greens in case study 1. She consumed 1 64-ounce of green smoothie daily, composed of predominantly of raw leafy greens such as kale or spinach, water, and fruit added for flavor. She also incorporated flaxseed, starting with her half cup and working her way to a full cup. Her other meals throughout the day included foods such as salads and raw vegetables, in addition to drinking a gallon of water. The only non-raw food she consumed was Ezekiel bread, a sprouted whole grain bread at the recommendation of the author, which is not typically included with the recovery protocol, but was allowed due to increased hunger during pregnancy. So that's what she was eating, basically. 1 big giant green smoothie day, and that she got results. And I'll be commenting on this at the end, so be sure to stay tuned. But yeah, I'm not going to argue with results. And once again, I'm not a doctor. If you guys have any health medical issues, including autoimmune conditions such as these, go see a doctor, including Dr. Goldner, who could help you get on this plan, follow it, and potentially help you reverse your condition. So you can see study 1, the person first started noting symptoms in 2010. She was diagnosed in 2013 after probably 3 years of, maybe not going to the doctor or not being diagnosed properly. Then she was diagnosed, right? And then she was on some drugs, right? But then what happened was in 2017, looks like she started the program in 4 weeks. Actually after 2 days, She had no pelvic pain, and after 4 weeks, most other symptoms resolved. And then you could see she stopped taking the drugs. So she got off the drugs with, of course, medical supervision. And to this day, for years after, 2023, she's off all medications and no symptoms as of the last contact in 2023. So that's simply amazing that somebody's able to literally reverse their symptoms that they had with this autoimmune condition. All right, so that's one of the case studies in the timeline. I really kind of like the timeline to see kind of what happens. This person, another case, they first got symptoms in 2006, and then in severe dry eye and dry mouth, and she was diagnosed finally in 2015. That's so crazy. And then she got hydrochloroquine between these years, and then she started experiencing neuropathy and saw a neurologist, and the neurologist referred him to Brooke Goldner's book, actually, and she got a one-on-one. And I'm sure around this time she got on the program, and her symptoms began resolving within 14 days of starting the protocol. Also around that time, an ophthalmologist confirms no visual eye inflammation or physical symptoms of dry eye any longer. And then she began replacing one salad a day with cooked whole food plant-based meal, reduced daily omega-3 intake 2017, and as of 2023 she remains symptom-free. So that's from 2016 to now. So you got to keep up the program, keep up the diet, and it's worked for these case studies. There's another case study. Man, this is a long case study, guys, from 2000 to 2022, I guess, is the last contact. So I guess starting in 2003, she had multiple visits to a primary care provider, but unable to diagnose any condition. And then finally, I guess at some point, she was diagnosed with lupus after the birth of her first child in 2008. So literally, it took 5 years to even get a diagnosis, right? Before she knew what was going on. Then she got drugs, right? Immunosuppressant that did not improve the symptoms. And then she was diagnosed with a non-specific autoimmune disease. And then she was diagnosed with lupus 2017. And this story may sound familiar because maybe like a lot of you guys that, their doctors can't just quite figure out what's going on. Then she's prescribed another drug, and then the symptoms exacerbated due to stress. And then she eliminated animal products, and then she actually had an initial appointment with Dr. Brooke Goldner. And then she began the RRP in 2021, and I guess she's still on one drug, but she's I guess remained symptom-free after this point as well. So anyways, you could read all the specifics of each case. I want to go down to the discussion. This case series details 3 women, 40, 54, and 45 years of age with SLE and SS who reported debilitating symptoms that severely compromised both physical health and quality of life. They self-reported remission of symptoms beginning a month after adhering to a customized nutrition protocol for recovery consisting of whole, predominantly raw plant foods. While a case series cannot establish causality, these results show dietary changes as a potential promising approach for the treatment of SLE and SS. At the time of writing, case 1 and case 2 reported having remained adherent to the maintenance protocol and have remained symptom-free with no medication use for 6 and 7 years, respectively, showing the potential for long-term symptom remission. Other case reports in the literature similarly support the use of plant-based diets in reversing diseases such as chronic kidney disease and outcomes related to cardiovascular disease, suggesting that the recovery protocol might be successful for a number of other chronic diseases. All right, let's go ahead and continue down. Now they can maybe get into some of the reasons why this may have worked. So it says a 2020 review by Islam et al. Suggests that a low-calorie, low-protein diet high in fiber, PUFAs, vitamins, minerals, and polyphenols, right? I'm highlighting that, polyphenols, remember that word, may provide a macronutrient and micronutrient profile that benefits SLE patients. SLE and SS are chronic inflammatory diseases, and it is well established that diets high in fruit and vegetables can reduce both inflammation and oxidative stress. Another point I want to stress is the recovery protocol documented in this case series is high in omega-3s. Is your raw vegan diet high in omega-3s, right? I believe them to be quite important, whether you're going to get them from flax or chia, or whether you're going to take a preformed DHA or EPA. I believe that is quite critical for your long-term health outcome and even potentially reversing situations such as they do in this study. So anyways, it says The recovery protocol documented in this case series is high in omega-3, a polyunsaturated fatty acid, shown to reduce inflammation. One study in autoimmune lupus-prone mice suggested that fish oil omega-3 inhibited production of pro-inflammatory cytokines and improved kidney injury. And omega-3 intake has been linked to improved outcomes in SLE patients, including reduced inflammation, disease activity, and oxidative stress. So that's very important, right? We can't forget about the omega-3s. Of course, they're getting omega-3s from their leafy greens, right? But also they're even getting over and above with the flax seeds and or chia. So as they say, the use of high-dose omega-3 rich foods and oils as part of the recovery protocol is a novel test of this previous research in a clinical setting. However, further research is needed to improve understanding of mechanisms and also to further explore whether different types of omega-3 fatty acids may exert different effects, ALA versus EPA and DHA, and the relative contributions of the omega-3 fats versus other aspects of the recovery diet. Yeah, so I mean, if you guys are just eating a raw vegan diet, I would encourage you guys to eat some flax seeds every day. They were doing about a half cup recommended daily in the recovery phase, and then even a quarter cup daily in the maintenance phase. And that's maybe the authors stressing on the importance of the omega-3 fatty acids. I want to go down the bottom of this case study where it says it is important to note the limitations of this work. Case series are observational, descriptive studies and do not utilize a control group in a hierarchy of evidence. Case studies provide weak evidence for causality on their own and best serve to provoke consideration for future research. And it says, as this is a case series, we cannot conclude whether the dietary change alone was responsible for the observed improvement in symptoms. It is not possible to assess confounding factors that may be responsible for the improvement. And then it says, cases were not consulted with the goal of participating in scientific research, thus food diaries were not collected, and nutrient analysis of intake was not conducted, nor has a nutrient analysis been conducted with respect to the protocol overall. Adherence was assessed via self-report only. So that's also pretty weak evidence. That being said, this is all documented, and over the years I've heard so many different testimonials from people, and I would say that this definitely has a lot more bang behind it, because it is a published case study with documented evidence where they did see a doctor and have all the proof that it actually works. All right, so what am I going to say at the end of this study? I'm going to say, I'm glad that Dr. Brooke Goldner published this so that it puts it out in the medical journal so that other people could try, and at least it puts it out into the atmosphere of other, doctors and whatnot, so that they could try this with their patients. And, here's the thing. My personal opinion is that, the cost to do this program is really low. You gotta be dedicated, right? If you're sick and you're having all these debilitating situations, right? Taking a drug is easy, changing your diet is a lot harder, but if you got motivation because you're feeling really crappy, you're gonna more likely adhere to the program, right? If you don't have any medical issues or any health issues, you're not likely to strictly adhere to the program. And then of course, when they got the results, they're just like, hey, this worked and I'm gonna keep it up, which I think is honestly great. Link down below to the study if you guys wanna read it for yourself and go through the specifics. I'm not. That being said, I'm glad that this was published as more evidence that a whole food plant-based diet focused on raw foods, which is not talked enough about on a whole food plant-based diet, is really important. But what I want to do next for you guys is now share my input on maybe how this program could be better based on my expertise. Now, I'm not a doctor, but here's the thing. I started my raw food died in 1995, and I started selling appliances to process specifically raw fruits and vegetables such as juicers and blenders back in 1998. So I've owned my business for over 26 years. That being said, I also have strived to improve what I'm doing personally to take my diet to the next level. Now, of course, Dr. Brooke got results using a standard Vitamix, probably with her patients and just blending things up. But you know what? What if it could be done better? What if the time from 4 weeks to heal could be reduced to 3 weeks? I mean, I'm going to make some suggestions that are probably not necessary, because obviously in this study, they didn't use the upgraded methods that I'll be sharing with you guys. And, most people are not even aware that this type of equipment exists or the benefits of it. And that's what I'm going to share with you guys in published studies, why I believe using the proper processing method can improve your results, at least get the same results, but probably not hurt the results, in my personal opinion. So let's go to the next study. All right, so this study was published in Food and Function and the Royal Society of Chemistry, and this is the impact of polyphenol oxidase on the viability of flavin-3-ols in fruit smoothies, a controlled single-blinded crossover study. So we're going to go ahead and explain what this is. And it says flavin-3-ols are bioactive compounds found in a variety of fruits and vegetables that have been linked to positive health benefits. Increasing habitual flavin-3-ol intake is challenged by the general low consumption of fruits and vegetables. While smoothies are a great, commonly endorsed consumer accepted means to increase the daily intake of these important foods, fruits used for smoothie preparation can have high polyphenol oxidase PPO activity and thus potentially affect the content and viability of the flavin-3-ols. So part of the reason Dr. Brooke Goldner's protocol worked, that they highlight in their original study, which we'll go back to, it says in a 2020 review by Islam et al. Suggests that the low-calorie, low-protein diets high in fiber, PUFA, vitamin, minerals, and polyphenols, right, may provide macronutrient and micronutrient profile that benefit SLE patients. So we're talking specifically about polyphenols here because flavin-3-ol is a flavonoid, which is a polyphenol. So anyways, what they did in this study is to assess whether or not consuming freshly prepared smoothies made with different PPO containing fruits impact the viability of flavin-3-ols. A controlled single-blinded and crossover study was conducted in healthy men who consumed flavin-3-ols containing banana-based smoothie, high PPO drink, a flavanol-3 mixed berry smoothie, low PPO drink, and a flavin-3-ol in capsule format control. The peak plasma concentrations of the flavin-3-ol metabolites after the capsule intake was 680 plus or minus 78, which was similar to the levels detected after the intake of the low PPO drink. In contrast, the intake of the high PPO drink resulted in 96 plus or minus 47 nanomole, 84% lower than that obtained after capsule intake. In a subsequent study, the flavin-3-ols were co-ingested with a high PPO banana drink, but contact prior to intake was prevented. In this contact, plasma flavin-3-ol levels were still reduced, suggesting there is an effect possibly related to the post-injection PPO activity degrading flavin-3-ols in the stomach, all right? So why is this even important? Well, let's go back to Dr. Brooks' study. Because they consumed 64 ounces of green smoothie a day comprised of predominantly leafy greens, such as kale or spinach, water, and fruit added for flavor, with no specific differentiation of the fruit that could be used. I mean, most people probably grab bananas because they're cheap, they're also delicious, they have a nice texture. Maybe a lot of people also had apples because they're also, relatively easily available and have a good flavor as well. But those foods specifically are high in polyphenol oxidase that can oxidize some of the polyphenols in things like kale or spinach. Now, once again, I'm going to the next level after what Dr. Brooke is doing. I hope maybe Dr. Brooke sees this, and I'm glad to discuss this with her on how she could potentially, decrease her remission time and increase her, the benefits of what she's doing, okay? And so, this study shows 84% lower of the flavin-3-ols. So that's one polyphenol. Now, they only measured one polyphenol. What about all the other different polyphenols? There's so many, and food is so complex. I'm never going to say the healing was because of this, but I will say that if you're reducing the polyphenols, what else are you reducing when you just do a traditional blending? Now, this wouldn't really even be an issue if there wasn't a solution for this, which there is, and unfortunately, most people still do not know about this. If you guys are a regular watcher of my channel, you will know that I'm really into what's called vacuum blending. All right, so with that, let's drop down to the bottom of this study to give you guys the main conclusion, okay? And this is a very interesting point here. As the interest in the health benefits of dietary flavin-3-ols and polyphenols grows, this study highlights that consideration needs to be given not only for the types of fruits and vegetables and plant-based products to recommend to increase intake, but also how they are prepared, stored, and consumed as part of a regular meal in order to maximize their potential to support health. Currently, there is a dearth of information on the topic. Dearth meaning like lack of, right? So that's the thing, right? If you choose different fruits and vegetables, right? If you choose different fruits, choose mango instead of banana, boom, you have less polyphenol oxidase oxidizing the polyphenols in your banana smoothie. She makes no reference to any kind of fruit. I mean, she probably doesn't want to make it harder for people to be compliant and just make it too strict and rigid. I get that. But, nonetheless, that's where, new technology and new ways of preparing your produce, which they highlight here, can be helpful. And this is literally my area of interest and my area of expertise, over the last 26 years as I've owned my business. So let's get into another published study. And all these published studies are linked down below if you guys want to read them yourself. Now, this one is interesting. It's done in Korea. Most of it's in Korean. It's the effects of extraction method on antioxidant properties of carrots, apples, and blueberry juices. So let's go ahead and read what this study was out. This study was performed to compare vitamin A, E, beta-carotene, polyphenol content, and DPPH free radical scavenging activity of apple, carrot, blueberry juices as affected by extraction method using a high-speed juicer, HJ, no vacuum blending, so that's traditional blending such as a Vitamix, and vacuum blending, VJ. Juice yields of carrot, apple, and blueberry were 100% in NVJ and VJ groups. Obviously, you're keeping all the fiber. Vitamin A content of all juices was the highest in the VJ, which is vacuum blending, right? Vitamin E content in carrot and apple juices increased the most in the HJ, and that's the slow juicer, right? Followed by the NVJ and VJ group. Vitamin E content in blueberry juices was highest in the NVJ group, then VJ or HJ group. Beta-carotene and polyphenol content in the juices were highest in the VJ, that's the vacuum blending group. In addition, the differences between vacuum blending and non-vacuum blending were only shown on apple and blueberry juices. Polyphenol content in carrot and blueberry juices increased most in the HJ group, which is the slow juicing, followed by the NVJ and VJ groups. And in the apple juice, polyphenol content was higher in the VJ group than HJ or NVJ group. DPPH radical scavenging activity in the VJ group was significantly higher than the NVJ group. The results of this study showed that vacuum blending method has outstanding antioxidative nutrients compared to other juicing methods. And this came out in 2017, guys, and still people don't even know about vacuum blenders. I'm the #1 promoter of vacuum blenders because I saw how it can benefit you, so I mean, they're saying straight up right here, right, you have more DTPH radical scavenging activity in the VJ group, and also, you had significantly higher polyphenol content in the apple juice. So let's go ahead and go down to some of this. I mean, a lot of this study is in Korean, but glad the tables are not. And here's the thing I'll say straight up. I sell juicers for a living. I also sell vacuum blenders. And what I'm going to tell you guys is this, and this is just what I've seen. Like, you can't ever say juicing is better than blending always. It depends. What nutrient are you looking at, right? Depending on the nutrient, that nutrient may be better extracted in a vacuum blender, maybe better extracted in a slow juicer, because each method is better or worse at pulling out different nutrients. So it really depends on what nutrient you're looking at. What I would recommend is you do both slow juicing and vacuum blending so you get the best of both worlds. And of course, I even go into when you heat process or cook your food, right? There's better and worse ways of heat processing. Fried foods are considered, ultra processed foods, while they make no differentiation between, baking something, putting it in a skillet and wok frying it, or steaming or broiling or boiling, right? So I would say that, for me, I always try to choose the way to best preserve the phytonutrients and other, sensitive vitamins. I mean, Dr. Goldner also recommends a raw diet, and I'm sure, there's a reason why she does that. But once again, I think it has to do around with, the properties in food that we can measure, like polyphenols and whatnot. And, there's, of course, things in the food that we cannot necessarily measure that we know if we cook them, some nutrients or the benefits kind of, get lost out. So that's kind of what this is showing, that depending on the method, certain nutrients in vitamin A and E may be higher or lower. But the very interesting thing is they check the beta-carotene here, and I want to highlight this. Although the carrot juice made in the slow juicer actually had less carotene per milligram. Also it's shown in published studies that the carrot juice can get more rapidly absorbed and maybe more quickly absorbed than a whole blended mixture. Okay, let's continue down. This is what I really want to cover here, because this is really important, because we're talking about polyphenols. So polyphenol content in carrot, apple, and blueberry juices according to the blending method. Okay, this is what the other study that I just showed you guys, the polyphenol study, the flava-3-all study, should have got into. And I wish they would have used a vacuum blender, because they used a traditional blender that blends oxygen into the blended smoothie. And when you add oxygen, then that rapidly increases the polyphenol oxidase activity. Other ways to reduce the polyphenol oxidase besides oxygen is, of course, with an acid, of course. And I think there's another method as well, maybe temperature. You could heat kill the enzymes, like blanch your bananas before you blend them, and you probably won't have the polyphenol oxidase problem. But nonetheless, they measure the polyphenols in carrots, apples, and blueberries. I want to highlight specifically the apples, because apples are high in polyphenol oxidase as compared to blueberries or carrots. So in the juicer, right, which runs at a slow speed, maybe 80 revolutions per minute in this case, it extracted 273 polyphenols, and then the blender, which runs significantly higher, got out 272, and that's actually after the time of checking it, after they tested it. That being said, because there's so much more oxygen in the non-vacuum blender, over time that will degrade much more quickly, and that's why if you make a smoothie, right, a green smoothie, you drink it, oh, it tastes all right, you let it sit on the counter for a couple, 2 hours, 3 hours, you come back, oh, this tastes nasty. That's because the polyphenols are oxidizing as it's sitting there because all the dissolved oxygen. Let's not mention that all that dissolved oxygen, you're swallowing air, because when you start with a blender with this much and you're done blending in the Vitamix, you now have this much. You didn't create food out of thin air. You've added a lot of dissolved oxygen, which may give you belching and gas and bloating, right? And so when you vacuum blend, you remove the excess oxygen out of the carafe before blending, so you blend very minimal amounts of oxygen into the produce, so you don't oxidize it as much. And that's what this study shows right here. Look at this. You have almost double the amount of the polyphenols, all the way up from 272 to 550. So literally you doubled it just by using different equipment, right? So that, to me, is the power of the vacuum blending. And I've never really presented this information in this format before, but hopefully for some of you guys it'll click. For some of you guys, it's not important. Brooke healed her people with non-vacuum blending, but hey, if you could increase by double the polyphenols, and we don't know what role the polyphenols play in her whole healing program, it's just one component. But the other thing is, if you're uncomfortable after every time you got to slug down a 64-ounce smoothie because you get bloated, right, and you don't want bloating because you got to go to work, right, and you're belching because you're swallowing air, vacuum blending could also solve that issue as well, which may be even more important than strictly the nutrition. And then they kind of go over the radical scavenging activity, and you could see, there's more radical scavenging activity in the vacuum blender versus the non-vacuum blender, and actually even more free radical scavenging activity even in a juice, right, than the non-vacuum blender as well. So this leads me to the last study. Once again, they tested carrots, apples, and blueberries, and once again I'm highlighting the apple because of the fact that it has high polyphenol oxidase. But let's go into one more study where I really want to talk about the different extraction methods and how they can be beneficial to you. All right, so this last study is the influence of extraction method on quality and functionality of broccoli juice. So it says, this study was performed to compare the quality and functionality of broccoli juice as affected by extraction method. Broccoli juice was extracted using method 1, Kuving's silent juicer, which is a slow auger juicer, vertical. Number 2, they used a high-speed centrifugal juicer. And number 3, they used a mixer, which I would believe to be a blender. And the quality properties of the broccoli juice were analyzed using 3 different methods, okay? And then it says, additionally, the antioxidant, anti-cancer, anti-hypoglycemic activities of broccoli juice prepared in the 3 different methods were investigated in vitro. So that's in a test tube, right? Not in people. The broccoli juice made by method 1 contained the highest polyphenol and flavonoid content, respectively, at 1,226.24 milligrams per liter and 1,018.32 milligrams per liter, respectively. Particularly broccoli juice prepared by method 1 showed higher DPPH and ABTS radical scavenging activities than those of the other samples. Additionally, broccoli juice made by method 1 showed the highest growth inhibitory effect against different cancer lines or cancer cells, HeLa, A549, AGS, and HT29 cancer cells. Broccoli juice prepared by method 1 had the highest alpha glucosidase exhibitory effects. These results indicate that there are important differences in chemical and functional qualities between juice extraction techniques. So what does this have to say? This has to go back to the flavothiol, right? How they are prepared. That's what I've been working on, and that's my area of interest that I've been looking up these studies, experiencing it for myself when I test these things in my very kitchen, see how I feel, taste the taste differences, and that's what I want to share with you guys to take you to the next level is my whole goal, right? And if you guys are enjoying this episode, make sure you click that subscribe button because I go places that no other raw vegan or whole food plant-based channel go, sharing things that you're not going to hear anywhere else. So make sure you click the bell so you get notified as my new videos come out because I'm always having some good content. All right, let's go ahead and continue down to this study. I want to just show you guys one main area. All right, so I want to show you guys table 3, contents of total polyphenols and flavonoids in broccoli juice made by 3 different methods. Okay, method 1, to remind you guys, was the slow juicer, right? Minimal oxidation damage. Method 2 was the high speed juicer, and method 3 was the blender. So you guys could see, due to the slow RPM, in my opinion, and introducing the least amount of oxygen, you get the total polyphenols and flavonoids in the slow juicer. Now, of course, this study was done before they had vacuum blending technology, so it'd be really interesting to see, because once again, they're testing a different item. They're testing broccoli instead of, whatever, the carrots, apples, and blueberries, which is what they tested in the last study. So this study is just saying that the polyphenols, not quite double, but significantly higher when you juice the broccoli than when you blend them or when you high-speed juice them, which also adds lots of air. Now, of course, juicing was not part of Dr. Goldner's program, and if you guys are going to deviate from her program, you got to consult with her, not with me. That being said, what I'll tell you is that, I believe there are benefits to processing your produce in all the different methods. But nonetheless, this tells you how many polyphenols could be in your broccoli juice, if you just use a different method than the traditional high-speed blending or high-speed juicing. And why does this make a difference? Let's go down a little bit further. And this is basically the DPPH free radical scavenging activity. And you could see that in method 1, the slow juice, because likely of the higher polyphenol and flavonoids, this had a lot more better DPPH radical scavenging activity than method 2, which is the high-speed juice, or method 3, which did not even show up. So that was the blending there. And then, of course, on the ABTS radical scavenging activity, or effects, this was in test tubes once again. Method 1 still beat out method 2 and method 3, but not by as much. And then now this also is very important. This was the cancer-fighting properties of the different mixtures, right? So once again, we're comparing slow juicing method 1 to high-speed juicing method 2 to method 3, which is traditional blending. Okay, so look, on all these cancer lines, like method 1, the juicing kicked ass over inhibition rate of the cancer over method 2 or method 3. I think maybe this one, it was lower in method 1, but all the others, pretty much method 1, maybe this one's not as good either, but it's definitely still better than the blending, okay? But yeah, nonetheless, right, every method you prepare your produce will net you different results. So, just this study alone, shows me that you should not be high-speed juicing or blending your produce up if you want maximize inhibition activity, maximum free radical scavenging activity, and maximum polyphenol. So that brings me to the end of this episode today, and I'm glad Dr. Goldner published her results on healing autoimmune conditions with her protocol, even using a Vitamix. She has proved that works good enough in those 3 cases. I would like to see, those are just the 3 positive cases. I wonder how many cases she's had where, things didn't quite work using her exact protocol. Maybe things need to be modified. That being said, you know, this is worth a try because it's minimally invasive. There's no surgeries, no drugs to take, and eating more fruits and vegetables probably not going to hurt you, although you need to consult your own doctor because I am not one. That being said, I want to go ahead and add in my 2 cents is that I believe, right, once again, I have no studies to prove this. I believe that by using different equipment, which the second study did mention, we got to be more careful about how we process our food, which is something I'm deeply interested in as a raw vegan. Used to only eat raw, and now I incorporate some heat processed foods minimally to my diet to make it better. You know, it's really important how we process our foods, and this is just not even talked enough about, even in raw foods, right? I'm not even a big fan of dehydration because that actually could also highly oxidize your food and reduce things like the polyphenol content. Links down below to my video where I discuss freeze drying and publish studies where I compare freeze drying to standard dehydration. Also, I want you guys to be aware of the vacuum blending. If you guys already own a Vitamix, you are in luck because there's a kit you can buy to upgrade your Vitamix to a vacuum blender. Link down below to that video where I discuss and share with you guys the Void Systems kit to start vacuum blending today. And also, of course, I do recommend slow juicing as an alternate way to get more of the phytonutrients in you, you know. And if you're probably thinking, John, what do I do, blend or juice? I say do both. If you're going to blend, at least vacuum blend minimally, right? And if you want additional benefits, I mean, juicing is a lot more difficult than blending because blending is a lot easier, and you may be more compliant through blending than juicing. That being said, I think, you know, juicing is like icing on the cake. You know, that's what I'll say. So if you're following Dr. Brooks' protocol, she didn't necessarily say you couldn't juice. Maybe I'd do her protocol and blend stuff up, and if it wasn't too much of an extra issue, I'd add in maybe a cup or 2 cups of juice a day to, you know, put the cherry on top of the already amazing program she's doing. And link down below to my channel where I discuss all the different juicers, and I help you select the right juicer for you so that you could extract the most nutrition out of your produce. And to be honest with you guys, the best way to extract the most nutrition, in my opinion, is just buy a vacuum blender. If you buy a vacuum blender, you can do the vacuum blended smoothies, and also in most cases, especially when you're doing the greens, you could do vacuum juicing. Link down below my video, antioxidative green juice that's made with a vacuum blender, and then a bag now called Alexa's nut milk bag, where you basically, you know, strain out all the extra fiber. And of course, you could eat that fiber later, add it to a soup so you could still consume the whole food. But when you fractionate the food and you make the nutrients in the juice more absorbable, you know, and different nutrients get absorbed at different rates, and I believe that to be of benefit. Of course, there need to be further studies on all these things that I'm discussing because it's ways that we could take the diet to the next level. And of course, you know, the final way I'm going to suggest you guys take your diet to the next level is, hey, hopefully you guys are already buying organic produce because generally organic produce is more nutritious than conventional. But take it to the next level, guys, and grow your own. You guys can see I got my mustard greens there. I got my bok choy there. I got my kale here. I got a whole garden full of, you know, different vegetables and greens that I grow. And if you guys want to learn how to grow your own high quality leafy greens and vegetables and like literally make the diet really cheap, because if you're growing it yourself, it's a lot cheaper and also significantly higher quality than money can buy. These are not shipped, man. I pick it and I eat here. I'll eat this for you on the camera. Raw kale from Africa. And you can grow all kinds of cool stuff. Check out my other YouTube channel, Growing Your Greens, where I have over 1,700 videos teach you guys how to grow your own food at home. So I really hope this video was beneficial for you guys. If you guys like this format, hey, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. More importantly, share this with other people that it may help to improve their diet and take it to the next level by including more fresh fruits and vegetables. And especially, don't forget the greens, guys. The greens are an essential part of Dr. Brooke Goldner's protocol, and I believe everybody should be eating more greens, especially cruciferous vegetables and other vegetables on their raw vegan diet. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss my new and upcoming episodes after commanded 5 to 7 days. You know when I'll show up or what you'll be learning on my YouTube channel. Make sure you click the little bells to get notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check my past episodes. Past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 700 episodes at this time on this channel dedicated to teach you guys all about how to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables in the best ways possible. And links down below in the description to some of my other videos where I discuss vacuum juicing, vacuum blending, and the vacuum freeze drying that I share as well. So with that, my name is John Kohler with OKRAW.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, remember, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables. They're always the best.